Will you have a minute after class? Yeah. You got the mic? We only have the English one. English version. Oh, there's another one in Hebrew. Yeah. So we're going to start again with Gimel. It's Hebrew, it's page 219. Gimel. No problem. So is it? Okay, so the mimer up until this point, until Gimel, was questions. And the question is primarily, what's the deeper meaning behind washing our hands when we wake up in the morning and washing our hands before a meal? So in general, we see that they have a lot of similarities, which means in some way, there's one common reason for everything. On another level, we find that there are very specific differences between washing our hands in the morning and washing our hands before a meal. As far as the water is concerned, the halachas are the same. As far as the vessel is concerned, the halachas are the same. And nevertheless, the way it's washed, the morning is one way, you alternate. And when you wash before a meal, it's 3 times in a row. So first we have to understand the whole idea in general, and then we'll be able to understand the differences. Also, why does it have to be that only a person pours it? Why does it have to be a vessel that has something that contains? What's wrong with taking a flat piece of wood that somehow has a little bit of water on it, and then you pour it? No, it has to be a keli that has an inside, that has something to contain the water. So let's start again from Gimel. Hilchas Netilas Yadayim, the actual laws of Netilas Yadayim, hein halachas aruchas. These are laws that are set up, mesudaras, and organized, begali shebetayra, in the revealed part of Torah. It's all found in the Shulchan Aruch. Many laws and many details of exactly how to wash, when, where, what is qualified, what's disqualified, and so on. But cholo and yanim, all those details, yeshnam ba'avodah b'nefesh ha'adam. They can also be understood on a deeper level, how it applies to the soul, shema pnimius, b'neshama shel halacha, and that's the soul of the halacha. Which means the halacha tells us technically do A, B, and C, but the depth of it is that this is a way of reaching into our neshama, a way of connecting to Hashem, and there's something deeper behind it. So what is it? Halacha's psuk is saying, as far as the halacha is concerned, Adam mu'ad la'olam, a man is considered always responsible for his actions. And if he causes damage, he's responsible, he's liable. And that is bein b'shegi, whether he does it unintentional, whether he does it intentional. Even though it's unintentional, but being that a human being is human and he has intellect, he should have calculated, he should have understood that if I do this, that, or the other thing, I will cause damage. Imagine if a person lights a fire in his backyard and the wind carries the fire from his backyard to the next yard. And burns the person's house down. And he says, I made a fire in my backyard. I had nothing to do with that guy. But if you have brains in your head, again, if it's something unusual, there was a storm, but it was a usual normal wind that carried the fire, you should have been aware of that. Or if a person's on a boat and takes a drill and makes a hole in the boat and says, this is my room, I made a hole in my room. I don't want to hurt anybody else. But if you're in the boat and everybody's in the same boat and you make a hole in the floor of your room, this is going to bring the whole boat down. So for a human being, even if it's unintentional, you're responsible. And you're also responsible whether you're awake or whether you're sleeping. Again, which means before a person goes to sleep, they have to be aware that a person tosses and turns and moves, and therefore you could be doing damage. Make sure that you're not in a setting where you'll cause damage. You die in misconnious, and when a person's sleeping, the hands are moving, and therefore you could break something without, of course, thinking about it, but you have to think about it before you go to sleep. So Adam means Hadarga Adam. This level of a person, which is referred to as Adam, which is the highest level, is tafkid. His mission is he has to be responsible for all his actions. You are responsible, and it makes no difference if it's intentional, unintentional, or if you're awake or you're sleeping. Now he explains, what does it mean Yadayim Askonius? And this is a term found in Gemara, in Halacha, that the hands are always moving around, and therefore they could, in their sleep, the person could do things that are damaging, could break something. Kavana is Yadayim, means the hands that, generally speaking, represent the midas of a person. As we know, the right hand is chesed, and the left hand is gevura. And chesed and gevura represents all the midas, even though there are 7 emotional attributes. But chesed and gevura represent the 2 columns, the 2 general categories. And the hands, there's also fingers. And the fingers have nails. And under the nails, it's a place that it gathers dirt. What does this mean? So the Zohar says, B'tufraha achidon, that klippas, where do they sort of latch on to a person? By the nails. That's where they can latch on to the person. And the reason is, we'll soon see, but because the klippas are there, that's why we're washing our hands. Netilas Yadayim is washing the hands, that the klippas should not be able to hold on. In other words, when I take the water and I wash it, of course, this is a spiritual process, but just like Begashmis, water washes a person from dirt. Beruchni is the water washing it the way the Torah dictates to us how to wash, has a spiritual power to it to wash away the klippas that through the fingers and through the fingernails it can hold on to the person. In general, we know what it says in Tanya, that klippas they have to get nourishment from Hashem as well, otherwise they can't exist. So in general, where do they try to get the nourishment from us? Klippas are sometimes compared to bloodsuckers. You know, they latch onto a person and they don't let go, and they're sucking the blood. So klippas are like bloodsuckers, which means they know that they can't live without chayas. They want sustenance from kedusha, and a yid has an neshama. So they latch onto the person and try to draw the blood, meaning the spiritual sustenance, from us. But the only way they can draw spiritual sustenance from us is if I'm spiritually, something's wrong, if I do an avera. So he says one of the places in the body where they can have some sort of a connection to is the nails, because over there is potential to do something which is negative and damaging. Because the life flow of the neshama is the most hidden in the fingernails. Like we spoke about this yesterday. There's life all over the body, in the head, in the eyes, in the heart, in all different organs of the body. And some organs, the life of the neshama is more pronounced, some places it's less pronounced. In a certain way, the least is in the feet, and even in the heels. That's the most sort of insensitive part of the body. But nevertheless, there's life there. And if you cut it, it hurts. But the nails, the life flow in the nails is so hidden that even cutting it with a scissor, you feel no pain. So because there's no life, as we know, wherever there's no life, that's where klipa comes in. In a sense, what we're saying is wherever there's kedusha, it can be klipa. Almost like in a physical sense, where there's sunlight shining and it's clean, then you don't have all sorts of bugs and different things coming around. If there's dirt and filth and darkness, that's when they come around. Or like there's a pasuk in Tehillim that says, at night, when the sun goes down, that's when all the evil doers, all the criminals come out of the woodworks, and they do the evil that they do because it's under the cover of dark. So in a sense, it also works that way with klipa, that when there's no godly light shining, that's when they can exist, because godliness is something which blinds them. It's too much for them. So if the godly light is concealed or hidden, that's where they can exist. And that's why at night when a person goes to sleep, being that the neshama leaves the body, meaning the godly light is not shining so brightly, so that's when a certain tumah, a certain impurity comes onto the body. When a person wakes up, it goes away, but it still holds on to one place, which is the nails. And the reason is because this is a place that, in other words, bagashmis, it gathers dirt, and we'll soon see it also, it's something which could cause damage. It could rip and tear, which is causing damage to another person or another thing. So in fact, the halacha is, if there is dirt under the fingernails and a person washes, then the washing is invalid. So before a person washes to eat, they have to check that there's no dirt under the fingernails, which means you have to wash to get the klipa away before you can have the water get the klipa away. Now, netilas yadayim b'boker, when netilas yadayim l'suda, we wash our hands in the morning, and we wash our hands for eating. Noiklum rak asher tzipanayim nekiyos. So the fingernails have to be clean, and then the washing helps. What does this mean spiritually? Yadayim he midas. So again, the hands are the midas. Well, the midas yesh tzipernayim. Midas, emotional attributes, have nails. What does it mean it has nails? This is one of the things that distinguishes between the way intellect functions and the way emotion function. Seichel, intellect, mivar b'higoyin u'mesinus. Intellect approaches things logically, approaches things calmly, and midas kiraz v'dekeres. Midas is something that it tears, it stabs. Be'ezeh midas shadam nimtza. Whether it's love or whether it's hate, it's all in a fiery way, in a very excitable way, because that's what midas are. So therefore, what we say that physically the fingers have nails, means to say that the midas have in it the potential, it has in it these nails that it could sort of, it could tear away or stab someone else. Netilas yadayim means that I have to refine those midas, which means, by the way, let's say something like love for Hashem. Someone has love for Hashem. If he has real, true love for Hashem, and not just imagining, but he's on fire, and then he sees someone does something wrong, he gets very angry. He could scream at him. He could embarrass him, insult him, humiliate him. It's against Torah. How did that happen? Because midas by nature are just very fiery, very excitable. So, and that's what he's saying. The midas have the nails at the end. And therefore, it's very possible, even if it's love for Hashem, it can turn into something which can hurt someone. Certainly, if it's a feeling like hate, a feeling like anger, that it's going to do that. So the only way to change that is to pour water on it. Water is seichel. Water represents intellect. Kedilunakis is amidas. That's in order to purify the emotions. That the midas should be there. The emotion part is a good part, but it shouldn't have in it that it tears away or it stabs someone else or something else. In other words, the midas should be under the influence and the guidance of the seichel. In a sense, it's like physically, if you have a horse or you have an ox, these are animals that can bring tremendous benefits. In a field, it can bring a benefit. But only if you have reins and you're controlling the animal to go in the right direction, to do what you want them to do, and not to run off and gore somebody, kill somebody. So an ox is very strong, and they use an ox to plow a field. But you're making sure that the ox is restricted and it can't do things that it would want to do just on its own. So midas, if you let them run on their own, it'll be like a car without a driver. It'll just do damage. So what does it need? It needs seichel to soften it and to guide it and to restrict it, that it should only go in the right direction. What? Yes.
Who started it? That we need to do it.
Washing the hands.
Yeah, because
Washing the hands before eating a meal, before eating bread. That's a takana that was made by Shlomo HaMelech and his bezdin.
And the water in the morning.
In the morning could be also, I'm not sure.
So before that, they didn't do it.
Washing for bread, yes.
But didn't we say that the others kept all the mitzvahs?
Right, the others kept all the mitzvahs because they knew what's going to be in the future. Right, so they even kept the things that are midrabanan, that the rabbis came up with later. But the average person who are in the others and didn't have the prophecy, didn't keep it. And like everything else, it means that up until that point, it wasn't necessary.
So, but we said that we know this from Zohar, no? Or no?
No, the Zohar explains that the nails is the place where the tumah is. But the Zohar is after Shlomo HaMelech, way after. Why is this before eating, by the way? So the answer is, number one, when you're eating, you're getting involved in activity that has to do with physical pleasure. And number two, there are a number of places in Torah where eating is also used as it represents, in general, all physical activity and pleasure. In a certain general way, it includes everything. So as I'm approaching the table, and I'm going to sit down and eat food, and of course, we want the food to taste good. And when it comes to food, there's a whole list of halachas, what's kosher, what's not kosher. And by the way, when we say something is not kosher, it doesn't mean it doesn't taste good. In fact, it might taste better than the kosher. In fact, it does. And when someone eats food and it really tastes good, they start wondering, is this really kosher? Like, this thing really tastes good. I once had someone who we were talking about kosher, not kosher, and he says to me, Rabbi, you never ate anything like this. You just never ate it. You don't understand. So the fact that it's not kosher doesn't mean that it's physically not tasty. On the contrary, it's very tasty. But it's not kosher means spiritually, it's not a positive thing. So when a person sits down to eat, you're excited, and you want, what excited means you like to do things that have pleasure. So therefore, you have to be able to be in control to only eat the food that are positive and not negative. But it also represents, in general, getting involved in the physical world. That's in all physical activity. That's where the emotions get worked up, because we want pleasure. So that's what happens with yonim of work. That's what happens with money. That's what happens with tznius. That's what happens with food. And that's where we need this caution that our emotions could be very positive if they're controlled. And the way they're controlled is by the seichel, that the seichel is poured over them. And I allow the intellect to guide my seichel, not the way it is like by an animal, where the animal is just pure emotion. So what's the difference between the morning and washing to eat? So he says like this. The chitzas hamidas, the way to wash the midas, meaning to refine my emotional character traits, is shnei efan in two ways. Oifen echad, one way is the sidayim shachris, the way we wash our hands in the morning. And that is kavanasa linkes yadayim. In this setting, we are refining our hands, our emotional attributes, meharuach hara, from a spirit which is an evil spirit, a spirit of impurity. Sheba ma'achoshech shel anhagas olam. So basically, it's nighttime, it's dark, and that darkness allows a certain impurity to descend upon the person. That's the halacha, and that's all we have to wash. Spiritually, it means the darkness that comes from the worldly way of looking at things and the worldly way of acting. And that worldly way is a dark way because there's no godliness to it. And it's all about just pleasure. But it's the perspective is dark and the way you're looking at life is dark. The value system is dark. So therefore, you have to wash your hands and make the transition from darkness to light, from sleeping to waking up. When you have to make that kind of transition, the way to refine yourself is b'seirugim. You have to alternate. What does that mean? It means la'at la'at, slowly, step by step. Linka is ma'at as amida hazu. First, you have to slowly refine one character traits. Ma'at as amida acheres. Then you have to slowly refine another character trait. Say there in a certain order. Until you finally succeed in washing and refining all the midas. There's a general rule, and in fact, it's these words are similar to the words that are found in Chumash when the Jews went into Eretz Yisrael, and there were 7 nations living there, and the 7 nations had to be removed. So it says in the Chumash, la'at la'at agoshen. It's not going to happen at once. It has to be done slowly. In fact, it took 7 years until they finished the war. And then it took 7 years for them to divide the land. And even after the war was finished, there was still a lot of people there. It took more time until everybody was taken out. And one of the reasons for this, there's a sefer of the Frierdiker Rebbe, which talks about education, chinuch v'adracha. And in that sefer, he talks about education, educating a child, educating an adult. And he says there's a certain basic principle, and that is when a child grows up, the natural way of a child is wild. There's actually a pasuk where it says, Adam ayer pedam pera adam yivole. The person is born like a wild donkey. And you see kids, they're running and screaming and shouting and fighting. Just let them be together for 10, 15 minutes, and they're fighting and they're screaming and they want this and they want that. And they're climbing the walls and they're breaking things. Because that's just what a child is. And that's the way people grow up, if there's no work done to become more refined. So basically, you have to change things. So the Frierdiker Rebbe says, what if you see a child that has a lot of negative character traits? So here's a child that this child is a child that has no respect, or a child that lies. On top of that, he's lazy. On top of that, he's very arrogant. What a collection. On top of that, he is, jealous. We'll give him a few more things. So usually you're so upset about all these negative things that your child has or your student has, whether it's a young child or an adult, you want to change it. Trying to change everything at once is something which it'll be pushback. The child won't be able to handle it because you're choking them. And therefore, they're going to resist and fight back and not let themselves be changed. So therefore, you allow whatever nature they have to express itself in this thing and that thing and the other thing. You work on one of the character traits and try to change that. And because you're not choking them, they'll allow themselves to be taught and be guided and change that one thing. And once that one thing is changed, then you go to the next. And once the next thing is changed, you go to the next. So basically, being that this is such a major transition, going from darkness to light, you have to go step by step. You have to be careful to go step by step, because otherwise it could be a backlash. So that's expressed by the fact that when we wake up in the morning, how do we wash our hands? First one hand, then we go to the other hand. Then one hand, then we go to the other hand, meaning to say that we're doing it in a way that we're doing it step by step. And what is the other washing of the hands? The second way is washing our hands for the male. When we wash our hands for a male, there's no darkness that preceded the male. So what are we washing our hands? Kanadava considered. Here you wash it in order. Here we're not washing our hands to take away something which is evil or darkness or bad. Here it's about sanctifying the midas, that we're refining them. They should be more refined than they were before. In other words, we know that even something like mikveh, which is to make a person pure when they were previously in a state of impurity. Take, for example, a kohen, or rather the kohen gadol. The kohen gadol on Yom Kippur immersed in the mikveh 5 times. Why? Once he immersed in the mikveh, it became pure. And now we can do the avodah in the base of English. Why a second time? And it's not because we're afraid maybe the first time I didn't do it good. It's not about that. Just the Torah says it should be a second time, a third time, a fourth time, and a 5th time, 5 times altogether. So obviously it's not about the first time is from impure to pure, but the second time is already pure. So obviously it's a further, more advanced level of purity. And the 3rd time is a more advanced level of purity. And finally, the 5th time is a more advanced level of purity. Of course, when we study this in Chassidus, it says there are 5 levels in the neshama: nefesh, ruach, neshama, chai, yechida. So the first time when he immerses himself in the mikveh, reveals the nefesh. The second time it purifies the ruach. The 3rd time it purifies the neshama. The 4th time the chaya. The 5th time yechida. So again, the first step is sort of getting off the ground, and that's going away from the negative to the positive. The second time is going from good to better, going from one level of refinement to a deeper level of refinement. And that's, in a sense, what we're doing before we're eating. We're not making a transition from darkness to light. We're going within light itself. We're going to become more refined in our midas. And this is also the reason for shifshuf. Why do we have to take both hands? Remember we said the halach is, after you wash your hands, in fact, it's brought down in Hayom Yom, the Frierdiker writes that his father, the Rebbe Rashab, when he washed his hands, would leave a little bit of water in the left hand and then take both hands together and wash it. What's the union of taking both hands together? Hashivshuv is skalus hamidus. The Kedusha call hamidus richlios midah achas. He's giving you an example of what does it mean, more refined midas. That means that every person has different kinds of character traits. But what is it that distinguishes, makes the difference between Kedusha and Klippa, is that in Klippa, the midas are separate one from the other. If you remember, we learned a mimer here about the world of Tohu, that there were 7 emotional attributes in that world, but the attributes were separate one from the other. And because they were separate, they clashed. And this is similar to what we know about the students of Rabbi Akiva, which will soon be commemorating that time, the time between Pesach and Shavuos, where the students of Rabbi Akiva died. And the reason why they died was because there was a plague. And why was there a plague? Because it says they didn't have the proper respect for one another. Even though they're all great Torah scholars, they were students of Rabbi Akiva. Rabbi Akiva was the one who sort of excelled in the area of Ahavas Yisrael. How is that his students were actually fighting with each other to the point that there was a plague? And the answer is they weren't fighting with each other, chas v'shalom. These are great tzaddikim. And they didn't do anything which is really negative in a sense, like hitting someone or calling them a name or embarrassing them or insulting them. So what? It just means that they were lacking in the proper respect that they should have had for each other. And why? Because it was 24,000 students. And 24,000 students, each and every one of them had a different approach. They all had the same Rebbe, Rebbe Akiva, but they all approached it because people are different emotionally, so people approach Torah and mitzvahs and their connection to their Rebbe in a different way. And that's fine, because there are 7 emotional attributes. Some people are chesed people, some people are gevura people, some people are teferes people, and so on. But it should be in a way that I could also accept not only tolerate, but accept and understand and come together with another person who's the opposite character trait, a Gevurah person. So a Chesed person and a Gevurah person get perfectly along, even though I'm Chesed and you're Gevurah, but we see how we complement each other. Like we said this morning, that in Chassidus, the Tanya of today explains how tzedakah is greater than all the mitzvahs. And immediately brings another source, that Torah is greater than all the mitzvahs. How does that happen? And the answer is, tzedakah is greater than all the mitzvahs in one way. Torah is greater than all the mitzvahs another way. So they both complement each other. And that's the way it is with people. You probably heard the story but it's not just a potential story, a story that actually happened, where someone here in Crown Heights, wrote the Rebbe about a shidduch, and she wrote to the Rebbe that everything's nice and fine about this guy, but we're very different than each other. So the Rebbe wrote back in Hebrew, which means that that's the case, you'll complement each other. I mean, naturally, if the difference is east and west, and like very vast, okay, you can't come together. But very often, the fact that there are differences doesn't mean you can't come together. On the contrary, they complement each other. So tzedakah does something for us that Torah doesn't, and Torah does something for us that tzedakah doesn't. We know the Jewish people are divided into two groups. One of the group is businessmen, and the other group are Torah scholars. People study Torah all day. Which is better? Each one has an advantage. There's an advantage in the person that studies Torah all day. There's an advantage in the person that does business and supports Torah. And each one complements the other. They both help each other. They both complement each other. So that means that the midas come together. On a personal level, that's where we're supposed to be as well. That even though I feel a certain way about things, because that's my nature, I'm a chesed person, I'm a gevurah person, I'm a rachamim person, whichever it is, I nevertheless can get together with someone who has a different energy because we complement each other. And that's the idea of taking both hands. The right hand is chesed, the left hand is gevurah. They represent the two general categories, and we do it together means to say we realize that it has to come together. So now he goes into explain a little bit this idea, which is called hiskalus. That's the Hasidic terminology for it. Hiskalus hamidus. Of course, on a very practical level, it means you have some people that are always cold and some people that are always hot. So do we leave the window open or do we close the window? Do we turn the steam on or do we close the steam? Do we have a lot of noise or we react when it's quiet? And whoever is in a place in public with other people, especially if you live in the dorm, Baruch Hashem, it comes up a lot that you find out that people are very different in so many different ways. So the fact that people are different, that's normal. But if you want everybody to be like me, that's when we're getting into trouble. We have to understand that I'm chesed and they're gevurah, and it has to find a way that chesed and gevurah come together. And like I said many times, when you look at couples that are happily married, and you look at them and you watch the way they conduct themselves, and you say, wow, this is amazing. I wish I'd have such a marriage, so beautiful to watch. Do not think for one moment that the reason why they have a beautiful marriage is because they're two people that are carbon copies of each other. Whatever he thinks, she thinks. Whatever he feels, she feels. Whatever he wants, she wants. It's not like that. I don't even know if there's even one couple like that in the world. That would be boring. So they are different and they have different ways of thinking and different ways of feeling. The art of harmony is that they find a way to complement each other and to be together in spite of the differences. And now that how the differences complement each other, that's what it is, but not that they're not different. So midas have to be able to have hiskalos, that's kedusha. Hiskalos, from the word kolel, like it includes, one includes the other. And he gives the example. The midas ava, if a person has the midah of love, he loves Hashem. Of the midas yira, a person has fear and awe of Hashem. Lo die, it's not enough. Kol hamidas triyos liyos tachas hashpos haseichel. All the midas, even if it's love for Hashem, and even if it's fear and awe of Hashem, they still have to allow themselves to be under the influence of logic. It shouldn't be just emotion without logic, because then kulan mu'ravas, then all the midas will be able to include each other and be mixed in with each other. Hey, mashpim zu al zu l'teva, then one attribute will influence the other attribute in a good way. And that shleimus milas adam, that's the really what perfects a person, is not just have good midas, but you have the ability to allow the midas include one another. And he gives an example of Avraham Avinu. Avraham Avinu hoya oyev Hashem. Avraham Avinu loved Hashem. Where do we know this from? Well, of course, he was a tzaddik. Of course, he loved Hashem. But he doesn't mean to say that. He means to say he excelled in love. He was defined by love for Hashem. There's a pasuk in Yeshayahu. On the bottom, they have the footnote 18. And look at that pasuk where it says, Avram Oyhavi. Hashem says to the prophet, Avram who loved me. On the other hand, there's another pasuk where it talks about Yitzchak, and Hashem says, I am the God of Yitzchak who feared me. Why in reference to Avram does it say the one who loved me? And in reference to Yitzchak, it says the one who feared me. Avram definitely feared Hashem, and Yitzchak definitely loved Hashem. So obviously it means that by Avram Avinu, the primary attribute with which he served Hashem, the attribute which is his source of inspiration more than anything else, was love. And by Yitzchak, the attribute which is his main source of inspiration was fear of Hashem. But it says like this, after Avraham Avinu stood by the test of the Akedah, where he was ready to bring his son Yitzchak as a Akedah, carbon. What does it say in the Chumash? Ata Yadaiti. Now I know that you really fear Hashem. What does that mean? Hashem didn't know before that he fears him. Through this test, then he reached, it wasn't just a test to know, it was actually a sort of a process to help him develop the highest level of fear of Hashem. He was ready to follow what Hashem says and not violate Hashem's words, even if it meant sacrificing his most beloved child. And that's the greatest perfection in a person, when Ava and Yira come together. Actually, when you read the Chumash, and especially with Rashi, there's a very big question there. In the story of the Akedah, it says, Kach no es bincha zichicha. I beg you, take your child and take him as a korban. So Rashi says, what does it mean, I beg you? The word no means I beg you. What does it mean, I beg you? So, as Rashi said, or the Medrash says it, that Hashem was saying to Avram, not explicitly, but in a sense, Hashem was saying to himself, I beg you to pass this test. Because if you don't pass the test, all the tests are nothing. Imagine, he passed 9 tests before. One of them was when he was thrown into a furnace of fire. So imagine a person who's tested one time and he passes the test. Second time, he passes the test. The third time, which is even harder, he still passes the test. The 9th time, which is the hardest, he still passes the test. Then he gets the 10th test, which is the hardest, and he doesn't pass it. Okay, everything is worthless. But he passed 9 tests, so he didn't pass the 10th test. So the answer is that once Avraham Avinu passed this test, and it showed that he had the attribute of Yira, what did he do? He had Gevurah in him. He was able to take his son Yitzchak, be ready to take away his life, and he did it happily because he's doing what Hashem commanded. So this showed that when it comes to Gevurah, not just Abba, up until then, he was doing mainly things like Abba, spreading Hashem's name, giving people food in the desert. And that is great. In fact, that's something which was resonated with Avraham Avinu's nature. He was naturally love. He was naturally kindness. It says he was the kindest. He had the epitome of kindness, the highest level of kindness in the world. So for him to love Hashem resonated perfectly with his nature. And therefore, even though he did most amazing things out of love, still there could be a tinge of, oh, this is my nature. This satisfies his nature because it resonates with his nature. When a person who's the epitome of love could do something which is the epitome of Gevurah, that shows that even his love and all the good things he does, it's not because it satisfies his nature, it's because this is what Hashem said. And if it's all based on Hashem, then I can be in that love, fear, it all comes together because it's all sort of for a higher purpose. It's not about me. And I guess when a person has a midah that they can't include others and they're just one line and one direction, that's usually a sign that even though it's a midah of love for Hashem, but what's involved here is me. It's me loving Hashem. And if it's me loving Hashem, the me in me can't tolerate the other direction. Like a person who's very much a disciplined person can't stand people who are soft and easygoing, and they look at it as something negative. I remember once also while in the Shidduch, when this girl was introduced, she was a very strong character. She was introduced to this guy who was, like I said, the epitome of kindness. He would have been the best husband in the world. Give her the red carpet treatment. And she met him. What's the problem? It's too good. What do you mean too good? He's a wimp. In other words, another person would be the happiest person in the world. I'll tell you from experience over all the years, the best husbands are the ones with the good nature and good character traits and so on and so forth. But a person who's like very strong can't tolerate somebody who doesn't have that strength. So they actually see this advantage as a disadvantage. He's a wimp. He's nobody. Like it's nothing. They can't respect him. So a Gevurah person can't tolerate a Chesed person, or a Chesed person can't tolerate a Gevurah person. That means that even if it's for Hashem, but there's what's in it is my nature, and therefore I can't tolerate. But if my love and fear of Hashem is exclusively because of Hashem, then everything can come together. This is what Hashem wants. That's what Hashem wants. Then it's all fine, and we come together. And that's what's represented by washing our hands and then moving the right hand, having the right hand sort of wipe the left hand, and left hand, the right hand means both Chesed and Gvura complementing each other, serving each other. And after this, we'll understand the wording of the bracha, why we say al natilas yadayim, not the other terms that we asked when we spoke about the questions. To be continued. I have another copy myself downstairs. Yeah. Want the English myself?